The day I was released from prison, I trekked 10 miles to the place I once called home, only to discover the door was locked tight. A note was plastered to the door yelling, "Stay away. We've replaced you with a real son." I could hear laughter from inside. I called my father, and when he answered, he recognized my voice and spat, "You're a disgrace. You're dead to us. Don't ever show your face here again." Then he hung up without a second thought. I just smiled and didn't knock. Instead, I left something on the porch. Now, they won't stop pleading. "Please forgive us. We made a mistake. You're still our child." I know this might sound unbelievable, but I assure you it's true. I'm not one to post often, but I'm at a point where I want people to understand what families like mine go through. Maybe I just need to vent, or maybe I want someone to reassure me that my anger is justified. So, here it goes. I'm 28 and just got out after almost 2 years. Nothing wild. Just a bar fight that spiraled out of control. Wrong place, wrong time, and I was the one who faced the worst consequences since my dad is the local community hero, while I'm the family outcast. I always thought getting out would feel strange, but not like this. I had no one to pick me up. It wasn't surprising really, since my mum had stopped writing about a year ago, which was a big clue that things weren't right. I still remembered the way to the house, so I decided to walk the 10 miles. It wasn't the end of the world. Even if I looked like a zombie when I arrived, I was a mess. Wearing the clothes they gave me and lugging my little clear bag, completely devoid of dignity. People stared when a guy looked like he just emerged from a ditch, but whatever. I had one pair of working earbuds left, so I played my old playlist to tune everything out. As I approached my old street, I noticed the house appeared different. Not trashed, but too tidy, as if someone had actually trimmed the hedges. There were new curtains in the living room window, something my mum never bothered with, and my dad surely didn't care. A car in the driveway caught my eye. I didn't recognize it. Not even a nice car, just some old sedan. But the whole atmosphere felt off, like someone else lived there now. I guess I should have been prepared, but I wasn't. I fiddled with my keys, the same ones I'd had since high school, and tried the door, but the deadbolt stopped me in my tracks. I could hear laughter inside. Actual laughter, but it wasn't my mum's or my dad's, just unfamiliar voices. I knocked once, and then noticed something taped to the glass. It was an ugly neon sticky note, and I recognized my dad's handwriting, because he always writes in all caps, as if that makes him sound more serious. It read, "Stay gone. We replaced you with a real son." Seriously, who does that? I stood there, feeling like the biggest fool on the planet. The laughter inside grew louder, as if they were intentionally ignoring me. I knocked again, harder, and then I heard someone say, "Just leave it, don't answer." That was definitely my dad. I don't think I've ever felt such rage. It wasn't even sadness, just this cold. "Are you really doing this?" kind of anger. I could hear someone else laughing, a guy's laugh, but not anyone I recognized. At that moment, I didn't even want to see their faces. I took out my phone, yes, my prison phone, which was basically a brick, and called the house, unsure if they still had the same number. After 2 rings, my dad answered, not with a hello, but with, "What do you want?" As if I hadn't existed for years. I told him it was me, and there was silence before he said, "You're a disgrace. You're dead to us. Don't ever show your face again." Then he hung up without hesitation, no apology, nothing. I just stood there, knowing I expected it, but not this way. He sounded like he wanted to spit in my face, and I could feel my fist clenching instinctively. I wanted to break the window, wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just looked at that stupid note again and started laughing. Not because it was funny, but because it was so pathetic. Who replaces their own child and puts it in writing? I stepped back, looked around, and noticed a neighbor across the street watching me from behind her blinds. Classic. Then I heard a thud inside, like someone shoved a chair or something, and the laughter ceased. I could hear my mum saying something, but I couldn't make it out. I stood there for another minute, unsure of what I was doing, then pulled out my old keychain and removed my house key. I left it right on the porch on top of that note and walked away. I didn't slam the door or anything since I never got inside. I left my key because, honestly, what was the point? They had already made it clear. I heard someone inside say, "He's finally leaving," followed by a door slamming. I walked down the street without looking back. I was angry, but not sad, not even embarrassed, just done. A couple of blocks away, I checked my phone and saw 3 missed calls from an unknown number. I guess news travels fast around here. Then I got a text from Marco, a guy I sort of grew up with. He wasn't really a close friend, but the only one who didn't treat me like garbage when I messed up. He said, "Yo, saw you outside. You good?" I texted back, "Depends on what you mean by good. I'm not dead, but that's about it." He sent a skull emoji and offered me a place to crash. I replied I'd figure something out and kept walking, not knowing where I was going. I just knew I wasn't sticking around to get humiliated by people who never cared in the first place. I started thinking about that real son line and who was actually in the house. I knew my dad always wanted a golden boy, someone who didn't mess up or embarrass him. I was pretty sure he found a way to make that happen for himself. Wouldn't put it past him to move in some cousin or something just to maintain appearances. He always cared more about looking good than actually being good. I know how my dad operates. He thinks he can just erase people who reflect poorly on him. He did the same thing to his brother years ago over a silly argument about money, and my mum always went along with it, even though I could tell she hated it. Now I guess I'm just another person he's erased. So I didn't knock again. I didn't try the window. I just left what I had to leave and walked away. But I wasn't finished. Far from it. I already started thinking about how to make them regret their actions. I'm not above a little payback, especially when someone goes out of their way to humiliate you like that. They want to play hardball. Fine, I know all the family secrets, all the weak spots. I'm not rolling over for these people. I'll update if anyone cares. But for now, just know I have no intention of forgiving or forgetting. They wanted a real son. They can see what that looks like when the one they had decides to stop playing nice. Update 1. Okay, I'm back. Didn't think I'd be typing this out in a random public library, but my phone's almost dead, and the Wi-Fi here is decent, so whatever. The last post kind of blew up my messages. Half of them were people saying I should cut them off and move on. The other half said I should burn it all down. Maybe they're right. All I know is I can't just let it go. I'm not wired that way. So here's what happened next. After I left my key and that note on the porch, I crashed at Marco's for the night. I wasn't even going to bother with my family again that day, but Marco kept asking what happened and why my dad acted that way. I didn't have any real answers. My dad's always been a control freak, but this was next level. I woke up to 4 unread texts from numbers I didn't have saved, all saying, "Don't come back," or just dead. Silence. Not even my mum's number. Just radio silence. Marco made coffee and cut straight to the chase. "You know your dad has a new kid living there, right?" I laughed and said, "What? Did he order a replacement off Amazon?" Marco shrugged and said, "Nah, not like that. But there's this guy Armando who moved in about a year ago. Apparently, he's the son of some family friends who moved away and left him behind." My dad stepped in, acting all heroic. I just stared at the wall. I barely remembered Armando. He was always quiet and did whatever adults told him. I asked if he was the one laughing yesterday, but Marco said he didn't know. Here's where it got weird. My dad has been telling everyone I'm gone for good, and Armando is the new golden boy. My dad tells people Armando is respectful, helps around the house, never causes drama, and doesn't embarrass the family. Classic. My dad always cared more about what the neighbors thought than about what his actual kid was doing. I guess being in prison was all it took for him to swap me out and pretend it never happened. Marco said he overheard my dad at the store one time trash-talking me, saying I was a lost cause and he was lucky to have a second chance, like I was an old phone. He could just upgrade. I asked if my mom ever said anything, but Marco shrugged. She barely comes out anymore, doesn't go to church or participate in block group chats, nothing. I don't blame her for hiding, but it's still BS. The more Marco talked, the angrier I became. I started recalling all the silly things my dad used to get mad about, like the time I forgot to mow the lawn, and he acted like I'd set the house on fire. He'd slam the garage door and rant about respect and discipline, but never once asked about what was actually going on. He never hit me, but he'd throw things to make his point. He always had to win, no matter what. The real reason he hates me is simple. He can't stand looking bad. Whenever I messed up, got a bad grade, or lost a job, it was all about how I made him look. The bar fight was just the final straw. He showed up at the station, didn't even ask if I was hurt, just ranted about how I'd ruined his reputation and told the cops I was no son of his. I guess that was all it took. So, yeah, Armando was the perfect solution for my dad. He's not related by blood, so if he messes up, it's no big deal. If he acts perfect, my dad gets to brag about saving someone. Easy win. I get why Armando went along with it too. He needed a place, and my dad needed a prop. Nobody cared what I wanted. After hearing all this, I began to think about what I could actually do, not just passively blocking their numbers or moving away. I wanted them to feel it. I started making a mental list of everything I knew about my family that nobody else did. Like how my dad is behind on property taxes or how he's been hiding money from my mom in these silly rainy day accounts. I set up a bunch of their stuff online before I went away, and I knew all the passwords. I'm not planning to do anything illegal, but I sure as hell wasn't going to keep making things easy for them. Later that day, I went back by the house just to check if my key was still there. It was gone, but the note was crumpled up by the door. I saw Armando through the window, sitting at the kitchen table, looking at his phone. He looked up, saw me, and immediately got up to close the blinds without saying a word. I guess he's just doing what my dad tells him, but it still stings. I knocked once and nobody answered. I started to walk away, but then the door cracked open. My dad stood there, not even trying to hide his anger. He told me to leave, that I was making a scene and wasn't welcome. I said I just wanted to talk to my mum, but he said she didn't want to see me. I could hear her voice in the background. I insisted I wasn't there to fight, but wasn't just going to disappear because he replaced me. He stepped outside, pushed me back off the porch and said if I came back again, he'd call the cops. I shoved his hand away and told him to go ahead. He slammed the door. I honestly don't care anymore if I look like the bad guy. I'm not going to let him act like none of this happened. I texted Marco afterward and told him I was done being nice. He replied, "For real, you should make them regret it." I said, "Watch me." Here's what I started doing. I logged into all the online accounts I set up for the house. I didn't delete anything, but I made it so only I could reset the Wi-Fi and the smart home systems. Yeah, petty, but just the beginning. I also know exactly when the property tax is due, and I might have made an anonymous tip to alert someone that the bill was late. Nothing illegal, just making sure things catch up with them. I called my Aunt Vera, who's always been the only one in the family to call out my dad's behavior. I told her everything, and she was furious. Not at me, but at him. She said she'd talk to my mum and find out what's really going on. I don't expect much, but at least now the family knows my side. I'm not sure what's going to happen next, but I'm not done. I'm tired of being the one who has to move on while everyone else pretends to be the victim. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I'm done being the scapegoat. If you're reading this and think I should just let it go, you're probably right. But that's not me. I'm not trying to heal. I'm going to ensure my dad feels every bit of the mess he created. He wanted a replacement? Cool. Let's see how long he lasts when things start falling apart. I'll update again when things start to break down for him. Believe me, it's coming. Update 2. I figured I'd update since stuff has been happening, and it's honestly wild watching it all unravel in real time. I thought I might be being dramatic, but no. The universe is serving up some messy karma right now. If you read the last post, you know my dad kicked me out and replaced me with Armando, the perfect son. I said I'd make him regret it, and here's how that's going. The first weird thing happened 2 days after I messed with the Wi-Fi and other tech stuff. It wasn't illegal. I set everything up and paid for it before I went away. I saw Armando standing in the doorway, holding the router, looking like he was about to cry. My dad was outside yelling at him, not even trying to keep his voice down. It was classic. You can't even do one thing right energy. I just kept walking, not feeling bad at all. Then I started getting random calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Not just family, but people from the neighborhood. One of them was Mrs. Lewis across the street, who used to give me Halloween candy as a kid. She asked, "Your dad's been acting weird. Is everything okay over there?" I told her I didn't live there anymore, and she seemed surprised. I could tell she wanted gossip, but I wasn't giving her any. It's funny how fast people notice when things aren't picture perfect at my dad's house. Marco kept sending me updates. Apparently, my dad was freaking out because the online bill payment for the house stopped working and they lost water for half a day. I didn't do anything but take my name off the account, and since he never bothered to figure it out, he was stuck. Marco said Armando tried to fix it but ended up calling my Aunt Vera in a panic. Vera called my dad and they had a fight over the phone. She told him she knew everything and wouldn't cover for him anymore. He hung up on her, then called me to check in. I told her straight up I wasn't sorry for any of it. The craziest part? My mum tried to text me for the first time in over a year. She just said, "Can we talk?" I ignored it, not out of spite, but because I don't want to be their emotional punching bag. I'm not here to fix their mess. I heard from Marco that she's barely talking to my dad now, and she yelled at him in front of Armando last night. Apparently, she slapped the kitchen table so hard it made Armando jump. My dad stormed out, and I don't even know what they argue about anymore. But it's probably not me. They don't fight about people, just about who gets to be right. The dominoes started falling when I got a call from this guy, Joan, who used to play cards with my dad. He asked if I was coming to the family gathering next week, and I said, "Nah, I didn't get an invite." He was quiet for a moment, then said, "Sorry, man. I heard things are rough. So yeah, word is getting out." Then Vera called again, saying my dad tried to borrow money from her. She said no, and he got angry, yelling at her until she hung up. Vera doesn't put up with his nonsense, and never has. I guess my dad thought he could just smooth everything over by pretending nothing happened, but now he's out of options. I know for a fact he's been using the rainy day money I mentioned before, and that's almost gone. The best part? Armando messaged me on Instagram, which surprised me since I haven't even looked at that app in months. He asked if there was a way to fix the home Wi-Fi because it had been down for days. I left him on red. I won't lie, part of me felt bad. But then I remembered how quickly he shut me out and decided to let it go. Last night, Marco texted me from across the street, saying there was a full-on screaming match happening at my old house. My dad was yelling about money. Armando was yelling back that he wasn't a tech guy, and my mum was crying. At one point, Marco said he heard a door slam so hard it rattled the windows. He almost called the cops, but didn't want to get involved. I wish I could have seen it. People probably think I should feel guilty, but honestly, I just feel justified. This is what happens when you treat people poorly and think you can replace them. My dad wanted a perfect life, a tidy picture for the neighbors, a real son. Now he has to deal with real problems. I didn't break the law. I didn't do anything. That wasn't already my responsibility before I went away. I'm just not covering for him anymore. I'm not done yet. I'm thinking about making sure all the things he hid from my mum come to light. Not in a way that gets me in trouble, just enough that she finally sees who he really is. I know exactly where he keeps his old receipts and notes, and I'm not above mailing a few to Vera if necessary. The family's split. Vera's on my side. My mum is somewhere in between. Armando's just trying to survive, and my dad is finally getting what he deserves. Honestly, watching all this unfold, I'm not sure how it ends, but I'm not stopping. Not until they know what it feels like to be cast aside, and not until my dad understands that he can't just erase people and expect no one to notice. I'll update, when things really hit the fan. Something tells me that's coming soon. Final update. I walked past the old house last week out of boredom, and it looked worse than I expected. Not just a little overgrown, but genuinely neglected. The grass was knee-high, bags of trash were strewn about, and the curtains were all crooked. For a moment, I wondered if they had moved out. But then I saw my dad's car in the driveway, parked askew like he just gave up halfway through. It's a weird little detail, but it stuck with me. He never used to let anything look messy, not even the mailbox. I kept my head down, hoodie up, but I could hear shouting through the open kitchen window. Not a fight, more like desperation. I didn't even plan on being there, but it was like I couldn't look away. I saw Armando through the side window, pacing around with his phone, looking lost. Honestly, I almost felt bad for him for a second, but then I remembered how quickly he shut me out. So here's what I did. After the mess that unfolded before, I decided that if they wanted to treat me like I was disposable, I'd show them what it was like to lose the one person who kept their lives running. No more fixing their problems. No more covering for my dad's mistakes. No more hiding my mum's credit card bills. And no more bailing them out with extended family. I just let everything play out. And trust me, it didn't take long for cracks to appear. The final straw came when my Aunt Vera called, saying my dad had tried borrowing money from her again. When she said no, he accused her of taking sides. She laughed and hung up, then texted me, "Your dad's panicking. You broke him." It felt good to hear that. Then I made my last move that I'd been waiting to execute. Remember how I left something on the porch? It wasn't just the key. I printed out a list of every single thing I'd ever done for them. Maintenance bills, old account logins, even how I set up the family calendar, so my mum never missed her appointments. I left a note at the bottom saying something like, "Hope, your real son can handle it." I taped it inside an envelope with some receipts I found in the attic months ago, things my dad hid from my mom, like cash withdrawals and loans she didn't know about. Nothing illegal, just the reality. After that, things spiraled out of control. Vera told me my mum found the envelope and completely lost it. She slapped my dad in the face for the first time ever and locked herself in the bedroom. My dad tried, talking to Armando, but Armando just walked out and slammed the door. The family group chat exploded. People started picking sides, and for once, it wasn't just me getting trashed. The real kicker. My dad began flooding my phone with calls. Not just him, but my mum too. They sent texts begging for forgiveness, saying things like, "Please, we made a mistake. Can we talk? We need you." Full paragraphs about how they were sorry for acting out of fear and didn't know what else to do. Even Armando messaged me, apologizing for his part and saying he never wanted to take my place. I didn't respond to any of them, not out of spite, but because I don't owe them anything at this point. My dad showed up at Marco's, trying to push his way inside. Marco literally shoved him back and told him to leave. My dad started yelling about family and loyalty, but Marco just laughed and closed the door in his face. Now the whole extended family is aware of everything. Vera told everyone about the money issues, the way my dad tried to erase me, and the note on the door. Nobody's pretending anymore. My mum keeps finding reasons to walk past the spot where I left the envelope, as if she thinks I'll be there. I just keep moving. I see her sometimes walking down the street with her head down. She texted me again this morning saying, "You're still our child. Please, let's talk." Here's the thing though. I'm good. I'm not going to help them. I'm not going to fix their mess. I don't forgive them, and I don't need to. I did what I had to do. They got what they wanted, and now they see what it costs. Real life isn't about some big dramatic forgiveness. Sometimes people just burn bridges and keep walking. So yeah, if you ever wondered whether people regret treating you poorly, they do, and it's not pretty. Don't let anyone tell you to go back. Sometimes, the best move is to watch them realize what they lost and never give them a way out. I'm out. Thanks for listening to this whole mess. If you were waiting for me to say I went back or we reconciled, you're not getting that. Some things can't be fixed, and I'm more than fine with that.